Hello, and welcome to Financials Podcast, Future Rich. I'm your host, Barbara Ginty, and I'm also a CFP, which stands for a Certified Financial Planner. And I'm back today with another solo episode. And no, it is not part 2 of my very traumatic birth story. I need to wait a few more weeks until I tell you the second half of the story to make sure that I am truly out of the woods. I appreciate all the great support that we received on that episode and all the kind words. I wasn't sure about sharing it, but I figured if it could help somebody, um, then it was worth it. And so I will definitely tell the rest of the story. We've had a lot of requests for part 2. It is coming. I just want to make sure I'm out of the woods. I have a high recurrence rate for the second part of the story, and I need a little more time to have lapse before I feel like I'm more in the clear. So instead today, we're going to talk about my favorite topic, which is Social Security. And you will be seeing this in the news because as of June 9th, which was yesterday, the Social Security Trustees released their annual report talking about the funding and other details of Social Security. Now, we have had some more pre-retirees on the show as guests. And as you have noticed, if you've listened to those episodes, which I would highly encourage you to do if you're not nearing retirement, as a good learning tool about what to discuss or what I do discuss with people who are near retirement, is one of the key components of a solid retirement is Social Security. Now, I often get a lot of pushback on that when I talk to younger folks because they say to me, well, it will not be there when I retire. Well, you're not wrong because Social Security Trustees report came out yesterday and said that there are 4 trust funds. For the one trust fund that we all think about when we talk about Social Security, which is the retirement benefit, there is more to Social Security than just the benefit that you get in retirement, which I'll just separate them for you so you know the true terms. But we think of it when we talk on the podcast about the retirement benefit you get. So that is actually the trust fund is the Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund, and that pays retirement and survivor benefits. Then there is another trust fund that is for disability insurance. So Old Age and Survivors is for if you are lucky enough to live to full retirement age, and then you can collect the money that you and your employer both paid in to the trust fund, and you get to collect that to, keyword here, supplement your retirement. It was never intended to be a pension and be your largest source of income, although sadly that is very true for the majority of individuals who collect, not the mass majority, but majority who collect. Social Security is one of the largest sources of income. It's not what it was intended to be. It was intended to be a supplement. Now, sadly, if you are unable to work all the way through till your full retirement age and you become disabled, there is also a benefit available to you before retirement, which is known as Social Security disability. It can be difficult to get, but usually it takes more than, in my experience, which is limited. We don't do a ton of Social Security disability, but it usually takes more than one application, depending on the condition, in order to apply and receive benefits for disability insurance. So in this report, they talk about how they're going to be able to pay the full amount of scheduled benefits and until when. And so what you're going to see in the news as a result of this report that came out yesterday is that the Old Age and Survivors Insurance, frequently called retirement benefits, will only be able to be paid until 2032. So that is 6 years away. They expect to be able to pay full benefits until 2032, quarter 4. So it gives them a little more time, a little closer to 7 years before they are unable to pay 100% of their scheduled benefits. At that point, based on current projections in this report, they will only be able to pay 78% of their benefits. So for quick math, if your benefit is $1,000, your retirement benefit from Social Security, and they do nothing, which I'm going to get to next. I don't think they're going to do nothing. But we get to that time in the future, everyone sticks their head in the sand between now and quarter 4 of 2032, and nothing changes, then your benefit would be reduced by 70. You'd only get 78% of it, so it would be reduced by 22%. So for a $1,000 benefit, you would lose $220. Now, obviously, that becomes more material as we move up and your benefits are larger, so if you had a $3,000 benefit, you would be missing $660, and that is on a monthly basis. So that is quite a big difference, especially if you're relying on those monies. And as I said, the majority of recipients are relying on their Social Security benefits, sadly. As I've talked on the podcast, and when you come on and you're younger and you're planning for retirement, I do like to use Social Security as a component of your retirement. And that's the key word. It's a component. I like to think of it as a three-legged stool. You have your own savings, you have Social Security, and then you would have what's considered a pension or pension replacement, or it could be another stream of income. We've seen rental income, another source of income coming in, so that you have three streams of income in your retirement. And that is makes for a very comfortable retirement, with Social Security being a component of it, but not being the main income source that you are living on in retirement. That is not a comfortable retirement. And it is not what the Social Security system was intended to do. It was intended to help individuals leave the workplace and remain above the poverty line, but it was not meant to be the single largest source of income in retirement. Now, the disability insurance, they have way better numbers. And so they are able to pay full benefits all the way through 2100, so 2100. So, like 70 more years than our old age and survivors insurance. So I think probably one of the things you might hear in the news is, well, why don't you combine the two trust funds, since that one, the disability one, is doing better, and the old age and survivors insurance is, not, we have 7 years left on that. And the reason why is, well, you're not allowed to combine them. So there'd have to be legislation to allow for that. But also, more importantly, the reason why the old age and survivors insurance trust fund isn't doing as well is because there are a lot more recipients from that trust fund. So to give you the breakdown, we have around 71 million people receiving benefits, but the majority are receiving benefits on the old age and survivors insurance, which would be approximately 63 million compared to around 8 million on disability. And as I've talked about before with Social Security, it is a fascinating program, and it's been around for a very long time. So it obviously needs some fixes. And I will talk about here in a minute what some of those fixes may be. There are some areas that have been kicked around for a long time, but no one likes to do anything until the last minute. As I'm sure you're aware, with the government, we like to wait till the last minute. But of the beneficiary types, so there are multiple types of beneficiaries of the Social Security system. So with the retirees are the majority. That makes up, we go even farther between retirement and survivors. We have just retirees, 54 million. Disabled, 8 million. Talked about this before. We have children, around 4 million, and then survivors makes up around 5 million. And that brings us to the total recipients of approximately 71 million. So we have a lot of people that are relying on this system for income. And so what are some of the ways that they could improve Social Security? Well, we only pay Social Security benefits on a portion of your income. It's not unlimited. So for instance, for 2026, the cap on Social Security, it's no cap on Medicare, but the cap on Social Security, the payroll tax, is $184,500. So one thing that's been kicked around is, well, if you make 300,000, then maybe you pay on all 300,000 of your income into the Social Security system, into those payroll taxes. And that hasn't happened. Every year they inflate the wage base, which is what it's called, and they could continue to increase the inflation at a faster rate, or they could just move it up more materially and say instead of 184, it's 284, 500, and then that would generate more revenue. Another thing they can do is they can continue to roll back the ages of full retirement age, which they've already done. It used to be 65, like for my grandfather. Nowadays, it's 67, and most likely they can continue to roll back the age, and maybe they make it 70. I don't know. I'm just throwing out a number here, because one of the issues with the funding of this is people are living a lot longer than they used to. So when they first developed the Social Security system, they did not expect life expectancies to be what they are today. And I know they say on the Social Security website that they didn't use this, but the life expectancy of someone at birth, because some people die with childhood illnesses or at birth, The life expectancy at birth was not great, and the collection age was 65. And so if you made it to 65, that was great, but no one really expected to live to 90 or 100, which is what we see today with the improvements in medicine and technology. So with people that are living longer, we have a lower birth rate, which means we have less people that are in the workforce paying in to Social Security because it gets paid in and then it gets paid out. And so we need more people in the workforce to pay more into Social Security to keep being able to fund everything, especially given that the boomer generation, which is a very large generation, is currently retired and or retiring. And so that's a very large generation, which is pulling, and their life expectancies are good. So those are some of the issues currently. And then the ways they can fix it, as I said, is they can increase the wage base. So instead of it being $184,500, which it is for 2026, they could move that up. They could increase the age for collection, and meaning that you don't get it at 67, maybe you have to wait till 70. And two other things that could also happen is right now, not all of Social Security is taxed depending on income. And one other thing that's been talked about is maybe modifying Social Security benefits for higher income retirees. So there is no cap. So as you're familiar with a Roth IRA, where if your income is a certain if you hit a certain limit, you're not eligible for a Roth. I don't know if they would ever do that, but maybe if you make $1 million in retirement, well, then maybe you don't get all of your Social Security. Those are just some of the ideas that have been kicked around. None of those, I don't want to give you my opinion of whether I agree with them or don't agree. What I do agree with is they have to fix Social Security. 71 million people are relying on Social Security, and they don't want a 22% monthly haircut. So you don't want to be missing out on $200 or $400 or $600. These are big numbers, especially in retirement when you're no longer earning a wage. And so they need to look for some solution, and I'm sure they will find a solution. There's a lot of ways they can do it. And if they wanted to be very diplomatic about it, they could probably increase the wage base, roll back the age slightly, and then modify for higher incomes and do a little bit and pull from all the different segments to help fund it better. So it remains to be seen, but you will be seeing a lot about this in the news that Social Security is running out of money, and it is running out of money, but it's not going to zero. And I am very confident that they will put a fix in place, some fix in place. But I bet, and we can save this podcast to see, I bet you they're going to wait right to the last minute. And it is going to be such an emergency. I doubt they're going to do this 5 years in advance. I think every year the report is going to come out and they're going to kick the can down one more year and wait till we have a proper emergency, and it scares everybody. But there are too many people relying on this system for this not to get fixed, because if people are unable to get what they need from their Social Security benefit and it gets cut by, it goes only to 78%, then they're going to end up on a different government system. They're not going to go back to work at the age of 85 or 90. So there needs to be a solution. So it'll be interesting to see how long they wait till they come up with one, but I absolutely think they're going to wait. But for now, when you are planning your retirement, I would absolutely continue to factor in Social Security. If you feel more comfortable factoring in 78% of your benefit, that's a perfectly fine adjustment. I think that it is a key component of your retirement, but as I said, it is a component, and I like to see it be somewhere around 20 to 30% of your overall income. And if you feel more comfortable, you can use 78% of that. So thank you for listening. I hope everyone is having a wonderful Friday. And the best thing you can do to help us with the podcast, and so I would appreciate it if you could take the time right now while you're listening to this mini episode on the Social Security Trustee report that came out yesterday. If you could share this with one person that you know that you think would find a benefit from listening to our podcast, we would so appreciate it, because, as I said, we do this nights and weekends, and our goal here is to improve financial literacy, specifically amongst women. And show is produced by 3 women, and we all do it on the side. So if you like the show, if you could take the time right now and share our show with one female that you think would find this beneficial, we would greatly appreciate it. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend. And to follow along for the most up-to-date information, check us out on Instagram, Future Rich Podcast. Time for our disclaimer. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance references are historical and do not guarantee future results. Make sure that you consult with your own legal, tax, and/or financial advisor before making any decisions.